Hello. Good morning, top of the morning to you. My name is Zoe Baraka. I'm coming to you live from the Dear Daughter page, and the program is To My Younger Self. It's a program where we tell stories from our childhoods, stories that have formed us, stories that have given us defining moments that are making us the people that we are today, even into the future. This is a program that tells African stories. Welcome, 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 everybody. Once again, my name is Zoe Baraka. Just a few things before we go on. We are moving to YouTube in a few short months. So please, please, please find us on the To My Younger Self channel on YouTube. Just type it in the search button. I am pretty sure you'll find us there. You cannot miss us. It's going to be the To My Younger Self YouTube channel. Please find us on there and subscribe. And definitely you can find a lot of the stories from the past on there too. Listen, I cannot see you. I cannot see you. So please, as always, do me a favor. Go into the comment section, say good morning, say habari, if you're from Kenya, right? I'm trying to remember a couple of other good morning. Well, that's English, duh. Machi, for awale, all those other things. Please just send me a comment, a virtual hug, something. Let me know you're here with me and that you are in here to share the experience of the storytelling. Okay? All right. Hi, Abna. Good morning. How are you, my dear beautiful one? How are you? Let me tell you, Abna is a business mogul right now. She is a giant, okay? And she has so much to share with you guys. I cannot wait for her to come back. Hi, Elsie. Hi, big sis. I love this woman. A lot of hugs to you all the way in Canada. I love you. I love you. I love you all. Listen, today's story is very interesting, but let me just jump into it because you know me, I'll just keep talking and talking and talking. Hi, Carol. Habari gani? Yes, yes. Good morning in Kenya. Good morning in South Africa. Good morning. I'm trying to remember a lot of African countries. Good morning in Algeria, in Angola, in Uganda, Benin, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, all of you guys, good morning. Welcome to Telling African Stories. Yes, yes, yes. Good morning, Beverly Ross. I love to see you guys here. Thank you so much for joining me. Listen, today's story. So, okay, let me just back up and tell it a little, set it up for you. So, my dad and I are very close. I think anyone who's heard me share any kind of story at all, there is a pretty good chance in about a 30-minute conversation, you would hear me refer to my dad at least 2 or 3 times, okay? Good morning, Lola. How are you, my dear? So, lately though, because I am so far away, we don't get to talk so much, which kind of bugs me. So I am always bugging him, dad. You know, like in that family, I think it's Family Guy, when the little baby is doing mama, right? And I'm pretty sure my dad usually wants to just say what. But he can't. Since we communicate mostly through phones, he just ignores me, and that really bugs me, you know. And sometimes I would go into these very you know, like a petulant child, I would go into these rants. You don't love me enough anymore. You don't care for me. Why do I have to chase you to call me? And I would just make a whole thing, because that's what baby girls do to their fathers all the time. Okay. Anyway, as I was doing all of these, actually, I wanted to tell an entirely different story today, but just about a couple of days ago, something hit me. I was reminded of an event that happened when I was in boarding school. So I went to boarding school when I was very, very young. I was probably about 6 years old when I went to boarding school. And my dad was, of course, traveling a lot at that time. So, you know how it is. They just put you in boarding school, they're traveling or whatever. And so I was the one child or one of the few kids that never really had a visitor. On Sundays and Saturdays, when all the kids, we dress up. Everyone dressed up, by the way, in our visitors' uniform. I think ours was like a green checkered uniform. The boys had a shirt and khaki pants, and the girls wore like a pleated dress. It's like checkered with like a nice belt and everything. So, we would all just be laying there. It's almost like siesta. But, they would come in and announce like, Baraka, you have a visitor. And it was a big deal when you had a visitor. Like the whole dormitory was celebrating with you. They would bring something called homcho. Homcho is food that is cooked from home. And I was the only child that never really had visitors. I mean, I could go a whole term without one visitor. So when I was going to school, I would have a lot of food that would normally run out, and by the middle of the term, right? And I don't know, but my mom just never visited, and my dad surely never did. Now, one of these times, I was out of money. Now, let me just say, I was probably about 9 or 10 years old. I had no money. My chop box, for those of you who don't know, the chop box is the thing that they, send you away with. It's like a little box that is built and they put food, it's like provisions and stuff in it. It was virtually empty. And they never really allowed visitors during the week, right? So anyway, it's about to be break time. I know I don't have money. I think we used to call them dorm mothers. Your parents will give you money that you give to your dorm mother. And every day you take some money from your dorm mother and she would take it away from the original amount that you gave her at the beginning of the term. And if you didn't give her enough money, by the time she's done with the calculations, you have no money. So you can't go to her for money, which is what happened to me. So of course I couldn't go to her for any money. And it was break time, not lunchtime. Break time meant you spent with your own money. Lunchtime is when the school would actually give you food in the dining hall. So I just knew, well, I am not going to be going for break. I was very upset. And I had my head on the table like that. And, just being a child. And then out of the blue, my name gets mentioned and they said, we need you outside. Now, at this time, the headmistress of the school, I see her standing at the door of my classroom. So the headmistress is there. Yes, Abna says, yes, Gary and carnation milk in the chop box. Yes, I normally would just have the Gary, the shito, a little bit of maybe Nido or peak milk. I never really had the cornflakes and the Weetabix and the custard that the rich kids had. So, I had the very basics. That was it. The headmistress is there. The headmaster, his name was Mr. Odami. This was back in St. John's. That's where I started boarding school. The headmaster was there. Mr. Odami was there. And my class teacher was outside. And they called me. So now I'm thinking, what have I done now? Even at that age, I knew I was a little bit of a troublemaker. Now, when I go outside, right behind the headmaster, my dad was standing there. Guys, let me tell you, the excitement that just came over me was the best excitement ever. Especially because, first of all, it was a weekday. It must have been like a Wednesday or a Thursday. It was a weekday. Parents were never, ever allowed into the school during the weekday. Somehow my dad was able to be there. And he came with a huge car filled with stuff. I mean, it was yams and cassava and just a lot of things. And there were a couple of other people with him. I can't seem to remember who those people were. I just remember my father's face and the excitement I had to see my dad and the way I hugged him. And let me tell you, my dad took me to the school nurse. We had time. It was, break break was over, people were back in class taking the next class, and I just had time to walk with my father and the people that came with him. The headmaster gave him special attention, which was ridiculous. He took me to the school nurse and literally sat with this woman, gave her all these food stuff. It was tomatoes. It was in bulk, okay? And gave all of those to her, almost trying to tell her, you can please cook for my daughter anytime. So I was suddenly one of those special kids that the school nurse would actually cook dinner or lunch for her family, and suddenly I would have like real food to eat, not dining hall food. There was another teacher, his name was Mr. Adams, and they lived, because the walls, there was walls around the school, and they lived behind the wall. It was right behind the walls where the boys' dormitory was. And I don't know how my father pulled it off, but he went to them. I want to say mainly because they were one of the few northern teachers, teachers from the northern part of Ghana who were there too. And they had a little quarters or bungalow. Dad went and had a talk with them. And so now they had become sort of like my surrogate parents. And if I needed anything at all, I could just go to them. Suddenly the headmaster knew my name like properly, not just a girl from Boku Central. You know what I mean? Because I think I probably was one of the few people from there. My class teacher suddenly knew who I was. And I don't know how Dad pulled it off, but he knew each and every one of these guys by their names. And I think he probably even took time to find out what they liked and gave them something from whatever research he had done. He took his time, knowing very well it were probably going to take him another 6 months to show up. But Dad was there that day. And of course, he brought me books, because Dad and I had this exchange of books that we did where we would, he would say, okay, today we're reading, I remember the first book we read was called The Oil Man of Obante. And we would read it together, but we would trade letters back and forth. I was probably 9 years old, believe it or not. So he brought some books. It was mainly books from African writers and pace setters, so that's how that day went. I was the most excited child for at least 3 weeks straight. I felt well cared for. It seemed to me as though, even though there seemed to be no food in my chobox when I was in the dormitories, I had an overabundance of caretakers outside of the dormitory, the nurse, the teachers, the headmaster. And actually, my dorm mother at some point was actually she didn't care to give me money when I run out of the money that I had given her at the beginning of the term, because she knew my dad was good for it. And I think her name was Auntie Augustina, if I remember very clearly. And I don't know, just thinking about this story now, I couldn't fight with my father so much the last couple of weeks, because it just reminded me, you know what? He's always there in the background doing something for you. And you will always be safe, whether you know it or not, whether he's on the phone with you or not. My dad has never, ever been absent. And that just gave me so much joy. Now, here's the gotcha. As I was just being excited and I just kind of stopped being upset at my dad, you can ask my sisters. I actually called my sisters. Have you heard from Dad? And why did he travel and not tell us this and that? I am always picking a fight with my father, But then I suddenly realized this is exactly what God has always done with me personally. Even when I'm thinking God is not there and I am crying and thinking, why are you silent? Suddenly something absolutely ridiculous will happen that I know I could never have pulled it off on my own. And God will just work it out. And somehow everything will work out. It's almost always like the too muchness of blessings. That's normally what happens to me, just like it happened to me when I was 9 years old in boarding school. It just happens like raining cats and dogs. And I realize now that presence, that my biological father, his presence has always been there. And that's what God has always done with us. He's always there, whether we like it or not. He's always there and taking care of us, whether we think he is or not. He does not need to prove himself to us all the time, just like fathers don't and mothers don't. And I know there's a lot of mothers who do that too. I guess for me, it just happened with my father. So I figured I would share the story. But anyway, that's the story. Just the silent, well thought out, strong, sure presence of a father that took care of everything. Let me tell you, it got to a point where my dad would make it a point to visit just once every term because, he would take a break from travel, visit me. But on those days that my dad came, it made up for all of the weekends that I never got called, because he made sure sometimes he would actually get permission to take me out of the school on a weekday, and we would sit out. That's how he taught me how to read time. I remember so well. We were sitting in one teacher's living room and there was an alarm clock, a wall clock, and Dad used that opportunity to teach me how to read time, So anyway, I just thought I would share the story. Let me read a few comments first. I'm sorry, I'm very giddy right now just telling the story because suddenly I feel this cocoon of love, not only my biological father's love, but also my real heavenly father, God's love, just cocooned around me. Big Sis Elsie says, beautiful story. Your relationship with your dad reminds me so much of mine with Dad. Kindred. I even have a photo from a midweek surprise visit from, oh my God, my dad. God bless them. Yes. So yeah, Caro says that, wow, you read books or you read books together. Oh my, I needed that. LOL. Dad's love opened doors to others to be K-Techers. Yes, he did. He really, really did. Abna said, amen. Beverly Ross says, yes, he will work it out. Always there. And Abna also says, I missed my daddy. Oh, yes. But see, he loved you so much. He loved you so much. Look how much he took care of you. I remember some of the stories you told me, Sister Abna. And welcome, Abigail Coleman. Thank you so much for joining us. Lola Akara says, such a heartwarming story. Yes, it is. And now I actually want to cry a little bit just thinking about it. You have no idea. For those of you who went to boarding school, I am sure you know what I'm talking about when you're the one person who never got a visitor. Right? So yeah, let me tell you, God will visit you every single time, even when you think he's not there. This story just reminds me now, as I am older, I am constantly just going back to this particular story every time I think God is absent. And I just find comfort in it because I know he's working it out. The reason why I know, my biological father, I feel like he took time to research these people who were my teachers, my nurses, or well, should I say collectively our teachers out. He researched all of them. He found them by their real names. And the one thing I remember my dad did that kind of blew me out of the water. He had his hand around my headmistress's shoulder, almost like we're dear friends. And I don't think they really were. I don't know how, but he has that effect where he calls everyone my friend and so on and so forth. He must have learned it from one of our aunties, Auntie Howard. I'm not sure, but I think he did. So anyway, here's the story for today. I hope it helped you, and I hope it helps you see that God is always there. And yes, Beverly Ross says, love conquers all. Dads are great. This is very true. Again, I don't know why all my stories keep going to dads, but it does. And I think the idea is that we get to uplift African fathers and African men for all of the wonderful things they're doing, but also so that for those of us, I personally struggled with trying to figure out, and my big sis Elsie will tell you, I'm always calling and saying, what does God look like? I want to know what he looks like. I think God is using these stories to remind me, this is what I look like your real father on earth, your biological father. whatever he's doing now, I will do 1,000 times more. That is very comforting, isn't it? All right. So that's the end of my story. Again, I hope it blessed you. Listen, like I said earlier, we are moving to YouTube in a few short months. So please find us on the YouTube channel, To My Younger Self. And also, what is your story? Where are you in Africa? Algeria, Angola, Botswana, Benin, Uganda, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Gabon, wherever you are in Africa, I want to hear a story from you. I'm going to title this the To My Younger Self African Storytelling Time 360. We're going all around all 52 or 56 countries in Africa. It's going to be an amazing storytelling time. It's a little difficult to try to make it alphabetically. And yes, thank you, Lola, for that idea. Actually, my dear friend Lola kind of implanted that thing in my head, and now I'm stuck on it like glue. Thank you so much, my dear. Listen, wherever you are in Africa, or if you know anyone in any African country who is a great storyteller and wants to tell a story, please, please, please connect me. Okay, I want to hear it. I am actually working in the background now. A couple of my line producers, Yidana, thank you. Philippa, thank you. And yes, my big sis Elsie, thank you. We have a few African people from different African countries who are going to join us to tell a few stories over the next couple of months and weeks. So I'm going to be hearing stories in French and other African languages that I have no idea about. This is going to be awesome. So please join me. Please join me. I am very excited. Okay? All right. Sis Elsie says, well said. Yes, thank you. Well said indeed. God has been very good and I am very grateful. I am going to sign off now. Again, if you leave me, I will talk for hours. Listen, guys, I love you guys so dearly. Thank you for waking up early and hanging with me. Once again, my name is Zoe Baraka. It has been an absolute pleasure hanging with you on the To My Younger Self show. Go ahead and have a wonderful, wonderful week. And always remember, even when God is silent, He is always there working for you. Love you. Bye-bye.